Hello and welcome to the Crystal Palace podcast. I'm Alfonso Greenbrook and today Pod 34 I'll be looking at a result against Sunderland by bringing my match review, player rankings and my man of the match. As well as this, I'm also going to bring you an exclusive interview with Sam Allardyce and Joe Ward after the game, so let's begin. This week's podcast is dedicated to Mark, who sadly lost his battle with cancer and passed away last week. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends at this hard time. This week's intro, Here's to You, is dedicated to him. A terrible first half for Crystal Palace, which saw them go into the break incredibly trailing by 4 goals, ensured that Sunderland cruised to victory in a basement level. After an early setback when Kone scored after just 9 minutes, 3 goals in the final 6 minutes of the first 45 stunned all inside Selhurst Park, as Didier Ndong netted from close range before 2 deadly strikes by Jermaine Defoe put the game to bed, with a full half of football still to be played. Sam Allardyce's players showed a bit more fight in the second half, but couldn't find the merest of consolations, as the Black Cats clinched a big win at the bottom of the table. The first half began in threatening fashion, when Jack Wardwell's pass behind the Eagles' defence allowed Jermaine Defoe to advance goalwards, and despite the efforts of Joe Ward to stop his progress, he fired into the top corner and Wayne Hennessy had to make a good stop. However, on 9 minutes the visitors took the lead in controversial fashion. Sebastian Larsson curled a free kick into the box, where Lemon Kone saw a header loop up into the air. But as Hennessy jumped to claim the ball, Billy Jones tangled with the Welshman and saw him nudge the ball back to Kone, who indistinctly fired home. Palace responded well though, and should have equalised in 21 minutes when a Yonkabai free kick was sent into the box and came out to Patrick Van Aanholt, who played the ball to Damien Delaney. And the Irishman sent a good delivery to the back post where James Tompkins was waiting to head the ball into the net, but somehow he miscued his effort and it flashed wide. The Eagles suffered another blow when Yonkabai limped off shortly after, but despite probing away and looking more likely to score, the host suffered a sucker punch of 42 minutes when Ndong picked up the ball in the midfield and was allowed to bring the ball forward 10 yards before taking aim, and saw a shot from 25 yards out clip the inside of the post and nestle into the net to register his first Black Cats goal. Being 2 behind at half time flattered Sunderland, but a crazy period in the game ensured that things would get worse, much worse. Just as 3 minutes of injury time was shown, David Moyes' side scored the third of the game, which was their third effort of the game, when Yanazai sprang a counter-attack and found Defoe, and he produced a clinical finish that found the bottom corner from a tight angle. And just when the home fans thought it couldn't get any worse, a third goal in just 6 minutes went in to virtually make the second half redundant. Once again a simple ball split the defensive line, and Defoe held it up well before turning past Tompkins and finding the net for the second time in just 2 minutes, and incredibly make it 4-0 at half time. The first time that Palace have conceded 4 goals in the first half of a Premier League game. Allardyce sent his players out early for the second half, and they showed a little bit more attacking threat when play resumed, with James McArthur dragging a shot wide before Christian Benteke saw a bicycle kick flick into the homes they went. But Yanazai went a whisker away from adding a fifth when he found himself in space 30 yards out and blasted just wide of the far post. Tame efforts by Wilfried Zaha and Loic Remy were easily collected by Manoni before Benteke steered a near post attempt just wide of the mark. But Palace's day went from bad to worse when Scott Dann was forced off the field injured with just 10 minutes remaining, after all the substitutes had been made, leaving the Eagles with 10 men. And when Jason Puncher looked as though he had rifled a shot into the bottom corner, Jason Darno's sliced clearance off the line somehow cleared the crossbar. The miserable afternoon was summed up in injury time, when Manone pushed away blasts from Remy and Townsend and Benteke, and when the rebound came out to Benteke he screwed it just wide. That was the last attempt for the Eagles, as they lost out 4-0 at home to relegation rivals Sunderland. Palace fans watched in utter disbelief as despite a bright start, Palace conceded 4 goals before half time to bury the game as they went on to lose 4-0. Now for some positives from the game. Palace started brightly enough, but once the first goal went in there was no outstanding positives to highlight. It was that dreary a performance. Now for some negatives from the game. Palace have a ludicrous Achilles heel. Concede the first and everything else will collapse too. The defence, which appeared to show signs of improvement in the previous game or two, allowed Sunderland to score with such ease they might as well have not been playing at all. As afternoons to forget go, this one will be right up there for Crystal Palace fans as they lost out 4-0 to relegation rivals Sunderland. It was a horror show for the Eagles as they dropped to a new low this season, going down to a 9th home defeat of the campaign. Only this one will hurt more against the Sunderland team that was bottom of the league coming into it. So what do we learn from the game? Here are 5 things. Number 1. Someone else can score for Sunderland. When the two teams were announced, it was noted that Jermaine Defoe was the only player starting for the visitors who had scored a goal in the Premier League this season. But it took less than 10 minutes for that trend to end, with Kone firing home to give the Black Cats the lead. Didier Ndrong added a second before the man Jermaine Defoe notched twice in quick succession before the break. Number 2. A broken record. Jag Rudwa had gone 37 games in the Premier League without being on the winning side for Sunderland, until now. Number 3. The injury curse strikes again. The result was bad enough, but Crystal Palace also have 2 more injuries to worry about. Yohan Cabaye was the first to go to the treatment room for Palace, going off midway through the first half after taking a knock early on following a challenge in the first minute of the game. He went straight down the tunnel after being substituted. And then Scott Dann went off late with a suspected hamstring injury, leaving Palace with 10 men in the closing stages as all 3 substitutions had already been made. Number 4. What is it about the 43rd minute? Not for the first time this season, Crystal Palace have conceded in the 43rd minute of a game. It happened against Manchester United and in the FA Cup last week against Manchester City, and it happened here again. But then it got worse, much worse, as Jermaine Defoe scored twice before half time to give Sunderland a scarcely believable 4-0 lead at the break. And number 5, flat as a pancake. It is not quite pancake day yet, but you can be forgiven for thinking it was, as Palace turned in a characterless first half display that was even flatter than the performance against relegation rival Swansea City last month, leaving them joint bottom of the Premier League only ahead of Sunderland on goal difference. Hull City are now above the Eagles after picking up a surprise 2-0 win at home against Liverpool. So now you've had the match review, we're now going to move on to the player rankings. But before we start, don't forget to follow us on social media on Twitter and Facebook at Crystal Palace for all the latest news. And for all you Facebook users out there, don't forget to check out our Facebook group so you can join in with the latest discussions, read the latest news and post your own opinion. So like I said there, if you're on social media and you do want to get in contact with us, then of course you can follow us on both Twitter and Facebook, and you can find both of these accounts using the @eCrystalPalace. And obviously I do follow both of these accounts, and I would highly recommend you do follow us, because on these pages we do regularly update you with the latest news, and that's including player and manager interviews after game. So if you do want to keep up to date with all things Palace, then I would recommend you do follow us. And something that quite a lot of pages on Twitter have been doing recently is, posting Twitter polls to have people's opinion of their followers, and we do quite often do put Twitter polls on our Twitter account so we can hear your opinion. So if you do want to get involved with, something to say about the club, then of course do go head over to the Twitter page, so obviously you can be involved with them. And the same goes with the Facebook page. We may post a few posts on there every so often, and do comment on them posts, just discussing, what you think about the club or anything really that the post happens to be about. And obviously if you're on Facebook, I've already touched on it a little bit, I would highly recommend you do join the Facebook group, and I am actually a member of the Facebook group, so if you do want to ever chat to me, then of course do go onto the Facebook group, and obviously you can find that on Facebook using the @eCrystalPalace group. And obviously I said I recommend it, I would recommend you do join the group, because on there after game quite a lot of fans do go on there to post their own opinion on how they thought players performed, or just anything else they sort of saw in the game that they want to discuss with other fans. So whether that will be a dodgy refereeing decision, whether that be just a player's performance, go into the Facebook group so you can comment that with your opinion so other people can see what you have to say. And also, you don't necessarily have to post stuff in the Facebook group. You may be someone who likes to read about what other people thought about the game, then of course do go into the Facebook group and you can comment on what other people have posted, just to share your opinion. And also if you did go to the game, do feel free to obviously post pictures from the game or post articles from the game, obviously so other fans can see them. But I've said this already, if you're sort of a person like I do who likes to hear other people's opinions and compare them to my own, then of course I would recommend you do join the Facebook group, because obviously quite a lot of fans do go on there to post their own opinion. And much like the main Twitter and the main Facebook page, we do regularly update you with the latest news. So if you want another place to keep up to date with all the news, then I would recommend you do follow or join the Facebook group. And obviously if you do want to find any of these social media groups and you can't really find them using the then of course you can just check the links in the description on iTunes and also on YouTube, and obviously get directed straight there. Now, if you are listening to the podcast on YouTube, then of course you can drop a comment below the video on what you thought about the game and also who you thought the standout player was for Palace. And also, the reason I do recommend you do comment below the video on YouTube is just so we can hear what you had to say. So obviously in the podcast I give you my opinion on the game, the best players and some of the moments from the game, but do feel free to drop a comment below the video in the YouTube comments of what you thought about the game, so obviously I can read about it, but also, like I've discussed already with the Facebook group, so other fans can hear your opinion. Now obviously I do want you to do this and obviously share your opinion of the game, but in the last few weeks I've actually set a challenge to listeners, and quite a few people have done this now and they've dropped this, what I'm asking for, in the comments below. And all I'm asking for is you to give me your player rankings and obviously rating the players from 1 to 10, obviously with 1 being the worst and 10 being the best. So obviously in the podcast I give you my player ratings and I rate all of the players from 1 to 10, but what I want you to do in the YouTube comments is drop below with your player rankings so I can compare mine to yours and see whether we had sort of a similar outlook of the game and whether he thought, all of the players put in the same amount of performance. And obviously, the reason is, the reason I do this is so obviously I can tell you how the players performed. But if you want to drop a comment below with your opinion on how you thought the players performed, then of course do that. And obviously, this week, if you want to do the same, then obviously do comment below the video with the player rankings. And the main reason I want you to do that is obviously so I can compare my opinion and my views of the players' performances to you, and just to see whether we had a similar outlook of the game. Because some people may say that, that the game was quite bad and the performance was quite bad, but actually in my opinion it may have been a good performance. So do comment below with what you think, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the player rankings. You can just comment anything you thought about the game, whether that be your man of the match, or like I said in the beginning with the Twitter polls and stuff, whether it be a refereeing decision that you want to comment on. But obviously enough of that. We're just now I've obviously given you the introduction. If you do want to follow us, obviously you follow us on both Twitter and Facebook at Equals of Palace. Obviously do give our pages a follow. But enough of that, now to move on to the player rankings. So before I go into the player rankings, I'm just going to give you a small sort of summary of my thoughts of the game. And as you've probably guessed, considering it was a 4-0 thrashing to relegation's rival Sunderland, it's quite a distressing game and not quite the performance we would have expected, obviously following the quite good performance in the Bournemouth game. But really, I've just written a few sort of sentences just to really summarise the game and give you my thoughts from the game, because personally I thought we didn't play bad. But then when you concede 4 goals in the first half, and most of them within 6 minutes, there's something seriously wrong. And that was quite surprising considering how well we played in the beginning of this game, and obviously how well we played in the Bournemouth game. But obviously what I've said is in the first sort of 10 to 20 minutes there was nothing really in it, with Palace playing quite well, like I've said. But once Sunderland scored, Palace lost confidence. We haven't got enough confidence as it is at the minute, but once that first goal went in, we lost confidence and everything else collapsed. The defence, and it just completely collapsed. And it showed that Palace had fear, the fact that once we conceded a goal we thought we couldn't come back into it, and everything else just collapsed from that. And because of we collapsed and we had a lack of confidence and a lack of composure, let's say, Sunderland seemed to score with every attack, and that's just evident with the fact that they scored 3 goals in 6 minutes. So it just shows that it wasn't really that good. But considering we were 4-0 down at half time, we did have a go second half. The substitutes, Remy, Townsend, they came on the pitch, they made a difference. And the thing that they brought to the team that was lacking quite a lot in the first half was the fact that they went forward. So obviously it may seem weird that we didn't attack in the first half, and yes we did, but what Remy and Townsend brought to the side was more direct running. They went forward, and instead of trying to pass the ball back to get out of danger, they tried to go forward and try and set up an attack. And that's the thing really. And I've said this already, yes, these 2 players made a difference, but also second half we just were better as a whole. The team were much better, and we had many chances. We had about 20 shots, but obviously same old story with Palace, we didn't take any of them chances. And yes, the Sunderland keeper made a few decent saves, but also there were a few sort of chances that we should have really buried. But we need to really step up in the next few games, and defend so much better. We've seen it against Bournemouth where we were quite physical and we had quite a lot of tenacity in the defence and we played quite well. But we need to step up now, try and overcome this sort of fear factor we've got and this lack of confidence, and hopefully push on to, get a better result. And the thing really, another thing that quite a lot of people have highlighted, and ex-players I know especially, we need some more talking on the pitch, and that's my opinion, and like I've said, quite a lot of other fans' opinions. We need a bigger leader on the pitch, and there's no disrespect to Scott Dan, who I think's a good captain, but at the moment, because he's being the captain, that's sort of taken away, because he has to concentrate on being the captain, that's taken away his defensive attributes. So what we should do is look for a new captain, and our new signing, Luka Milivojevic, he is he was the captain for Olympiacos, so hopefully him coming back into the side, and maybe with the help of Delaney, maybe he could help to lead the side forward, and that's what we need. Yes, we need a captain on the pitch, but we also need more talking. We want the players talking to each other, and if we are low on confidence, we need sort of someone to rally the troops and obviously get the team going again. And you know, there is an improvement there, I think there is, but obviously in order for us to improve as a team and sort of get rid of this lack of confidence, we obviously need to work as a group, and that's the thing, you know. There's no I in team, so we need everyone in the team to obviously work together. And obviously, because of this week's diabolical result, which is a word I think summarises the game, and to be honest, it summarises the game, but I don't really know how to put the game into other words. So obviously this week, instead of just giving you, I'm just going to give you the player rankings for each player, as long as the description and a half-time rating. Obviously, as some of the players did have contrasting halves, so obviously instead of me just giving you the normal sort of a rating, then give a description, then sort of explain it, because it was such a diabolical result which I don't know how to put into words and that I don't really want to spend too much time talking about, all I'm going to do is give you the player ranking and a description, and also for the players that were on the pitch in the first half, I'm obviously going to give you the half-time rating, because some of the players came out better, like I've said, in the second half, but still, you know, it was quite a bad result from our perspective, like I said, considering how well we played against Bournemouth. But obviously we're now going to start with the goalkeeper, Wayne Hennessy. Half-time rating, a 4. Some fans will question him for the opening goal, but he didn't have a chance to claim under pressure, left exposed for further goals. Full-time rating, a 3. The first goal conceded, which could have been a simple catch under some mid-pressure from Sunderland, saw Hennessy drop the ball to Kona, who then scored. It hit the side's mentality hard. Could also have done better with at least 2 of the other goals. Patrick Van Aanholt, half-time rating, a 5. Found the back of the White Horse end with a wild shot. Full-time rating, a 4. Mitigated by the fact that only 1 goal came from the left-hand side. Damien Delaney, a 4. Tried to organise defence but didn't do himself any favours with the crowd when his clearance on the sideline sliced out of play. Confronted by fan at half-time. Every defender deserves to take some responsibility for this result. Delaney was poor throughout. James Tompkins, half-time rating, a 3. Beaten in the air from Kone before the goal. Missed a glorious opportunity 3 yards out from goal to equalise. Turned by Defoe for the 4th. Full-time rating, also a 3. Missed an easy header for equaliser shortly after Sunderland scored. Then defended like an amateur to allow Jermaine Defoe to score the 4th goal. The captain, Scott Dan, half-time rating, a 6. No mistakes. Main focus was to keep Defoe quiet, and he did that relatively well, until the little man struck twice. Did his best to block Ndong's shot, but it was a great strike for the second. Full-time rating, a 4. As with Delaney, culprit for the goals that were conceded. Joe Ward, half-time rating, a 5. Playing further forward than normal, and he seemed to enjoy it more. Full-time rating, a 3. Caught out of position as Sunderland countered for the 3rd and 4th goal. Yohan Cabaye, a 6. Palace's best player but went off injured. Taken off for Joe Ledley. Didn't look comfortable after an early knock from Seb Larsson. Losing him meant that Palace lost the midfield. Jason Puncheon, first half rating, a 5. In the thick of the action through the middle, but with no creativity. Full-time rating, a 4. When Palace needed a cool head to get a foot in the ball, Puncheon seemed to lose this. James MacArthur, half-time rating, a 5. Looked lost and struggled to get into the game. Full-time rating, also a 5. Can't really blame him for much of what happened. Was played in an advanced role and watched on in as much horror as the Palace fans did. Wilfried Zaha, half-time rating, a 6. A bright spark and looked to get things moving as you'd expect. Full-time rating, a 5. Sunderland did a remarkably good job of frustrating Zaha. The winger lost his cool in the first half, a distraction that the team didn't need. Better in the second half at least. Christian Benteke, half-time rating, a 6. Good in the air and was certainly up for it, just needed more service. Full-time rating, a 5. Didn't get any service to score from and struggled to create something for himself too. Now for the subs, starting with Joe Ledley. Half-time rating, a 4. A player Palace needed to stay disciplined and sit in front of the back 4. However, he gave the ball away to Didier Ndong to score the second. Full-time rating, a 3. To blame for the second goal with an awful touch. Caught far too forward for the third and reacted too slowly to the danger as the player closest to Defoe failed to put in a tackle. Andrew Townsend, a 6. Came on for Delaney and put in a lot of effort during the second half, arguably one of the game's only highlights. Loic Remy, a 6. Like Townsend, Remy showed some great creativity and drives during the second half. there was little he or the fellow second half substitutes could do to turn the game around, however. So there were your player rankings. Do comment below what you think about the player rankings and whether you do agree with the two different ratings I gave to some of the players for their first half performance and obviously their second half and full-time performance. But just to sort of give you a little bit of summary of the game, I know I did give you one at the beginning, but you know, I'm just going to go over it again because it's quite a distressing thing, the fact that we played quite well or really well against Bournemouth and then we played terribly against relegation rival Sunderland, who theoretically are a worse side. But to be honest, like I said at the beginning, Palace started brightly enough, you know, and we played quite well. But once the first goal went in, there wasn't really any positives to highlight. So the one positive from the game is that we played well in the first sort of 10 to 20 minutes. We played well in the second half because we got a reaction from the side. But it wasn't really enough, and that was there was no outstanding performance. It was a dreary performance. Dreary is a word I think I quite like to describe it. And obviously we do know that Palace have an Achilles heel, and that's obviously defending this season. You know, in past seasons, especially last season, our problem was scoring goals and our defence was good. But this season, the defence is our Achilles heel, and it's hurting us really hard. And the thing that's been the case this season, if we concede the first goal, everything else will collapse. So once we scored that goal against Sunderland, although we were playing really well at the time, everything else collapsed thereafter, and obviously we go on to concede 3 more goals in 6 minutes. And obviously I talked about us playing well and starting brightly. You know, in the Bournemouth game, we actually started to show signs of improvement. The defence were much more solid in that game. The sort of back three with the 2 fullbacks was working really well. But in this game, you know, it didn't really work well, and we allowed Sunderland to score with so much ease. They all managed to just run through us, and whether that would be a miscommunication with defenders because they were so high up the pitch, whether that be the fullbacks not tracking the runs, leaving the defence under pressure, or whether it be the goalkeeper making the mistake. So it just made it so easy for Sunderland to score when actually we played quite well, but because of our little mistakes, or 3 or 4 mistakes we made, obviously we got punished for them. And to be honest, quite a lot of people have been slating Sam Allardyce on Twitter for this, so obviously for the result, the fact that he should have set the team up differently. I personally don't think we can blame Sam Allardyce in any way that the team fell to pieces as quickly as he did, because at the end of the day, him and Sammy Lee and maybe Martin Margetson are the guys doing the training on the training ground, and obviously they're doing enough training. You see on the videos they post online, they're doing very good training drills, they're working the defence really well, but obviously in a game, you know, it really didn't work, and you can't really blame Allardyce because at the end of the day, he's the one managing, he's the one who put out a team there with the same system which worked against Bournemouth, but obviously it didn't work. And you can tell, and you'll hear the match interview afterwards with Sam Allardyce, but he looked shell-shocked after the calamitous spell. It just shows that actually, you know, he obviously showed signs of, he actually done loads of work on the training ground, but he was so shocked at the fact that we conceded the 3 goals because obviously, like I said at the beginning, the defenders had so little confidence that once the first goal in, everything collapsed, and obviously they didn't show the qualities which obviously they've been working on training. And actually, you know, we talked about when he came to the club, this should be quite easy for him because, you know, at Sunderland last season, the team wasn't fantastic and he managed to keep them up. And with Palace, who theoretically we have a better team than Sunderland did, he thought it might be an easier job. But this, you know, this job has just got even more complex from him because he's lost to a relegation rival. We're now in the thick of a relegation battle. But hopefully, you know, with the work he's done on the training ground and the fact that we've seen what Palace can do against Bournemouth, we need to duplicate that every week, starting with the game against Stoke, and hopefully we can build on for the future. Now, obviously, I talked about us playing brightly and playing well throughout the game. We actually did boss every stat. Now, obviously, if you look back at the stats, I know people say stats don't win anything or don't mean anything, but actually, most of the time, generally speaking, you know, if you boss the stats, you generally go on to win the game. But in our case, you know, we did boss the stats, but we didn't make that count. We didn't make our chances which we had with the possession, with the shots on target as well. We didn't make that count, and obviously that's ultimately what led to us losing the game. So just to talk about possession, we had 65% possession. We had 21 shots, which is probably the highest we've had this season, and we had 9 shots on target. And obviously, a few of them shots were just wide. A few of them shots were saved by the keeper. A few of them blocked by defenders. So if maybe 1 or 2 of them shots the keeper hadn't made the save, that could have been, you know, 4-2. Or if Tompkins' shot or header on goal would have gone, you know, a few centimetres to, I believe it was to the left, it would have gone in. So with these shots on target, we probably could have gone on to win the game. And although we did boss the stats, you know, that just showed once again that you can boss stats and do well with possession and shots, but ultimately that's not going to, let you win the game. And that's the thing with Palace, we started really well and we carried off of where we left with the Bournemouth game playing well. But like I said, because we've got so little confidence and there's a sort of fear factor, which Allardyce said in the team at the minute, it meant that once the first goal in, everything else collapsed. And although, we were better second half, it obviously wasn't enough to obviously get us to win the game. So now to move on to the Man of the Match award, but after such a dismal display, no one deserved the award as no one had a massive influence, showed tenacity or even showed fight throughout the game. The mentions must go to Wilfried Zaha, Johan Cabaye and James McArthur, and the subs Remy and Townsend for being the least worst players and the least trying throughout the game. In contrast to this, according to WhoScored.com stats, these were our 5 best players. Townsend, Remy, Wilfried Zaha, Johan Cabaye and Christian Benteke. They had scores of 6.9, 6.4, 6.7, 6.5 and 6.3 respectively. So now you've heard my match report, player rankings and my man of the match. That concludes this week's podcast. Now I've got an exclusive interview with Sam Allardyce and Joe Ward following the game.
Joel, thank you for talking to us. A frustrating afternoon for you. What do you feel went wrong?
It's extremely frustrating. The first half, I think they outworked us and we let them play and let them pick up the ball in the dangerous areas and didn't cope with what they threw at us, and it was unacceptable.
It must be incredibly disappointing considering you came into the game with such confidence after that win on Tuesday night.
Yeah, we wanted to obviously come in to the game with the momentum from Bournemouth the other night, and we didn't do that, and by the time we did it was too late.
There were suggestions of a foul in the build-up to the first goal on your goalkeeper. Did you see that? What was your view on it?
I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on that, but we should deal with it anyway.
You dominated possession in that first half. Do you feel like perhaps when your luck's down you don't get the break, and if you'd have got the first goal it would have been a different game?
Of course, I think if you get the first goal then it's a massive boost for the side, but we didn't, and then we made it too easy for them to get their noses in front and gifted them too many goals.
I guess the key is now to move on quickly. How do you respond as a team to this?
Well, we have to get together, dust ourselves off and roll up our sleeves and go, because at the end of the day, if we don't do that, then we're going to be in very big trouble, and we need to come off the rope swinging, and that's just the start of it.
Sam, first of all, your reflections on not only a particularly disappointing result, but obviously that end of the first half. What are you feeling looking back on it?
I'm deeply shocked, and obviously I was surprised what I was watching. But now the game is finished, even as early as this, in the cold light of day, I can see the problem, and it looked very apparent in the Swansea game, but this has nailed it home for me that we struggle to play at home and we struggle to do the right things because the players are fearful of what they're doing here at Selhurst Park at the moment, and that's not the fans' fault because they're very, very good. They're very, very supportive here. They rarely criticise the players when I've come as an opponent manager and since I've been here. So, for me, you look at the table split into two and you say our away form is 9th in the league and our own form is bottom of the league, and that tells the fear that the players are suffering at the moment, and there's nothing that trepidises that fear more than losing the first goal so early, which should have been avoided. It wasn't, and then the fear kicks in even more, and then we lose composure on the ball. We don't pass as good as we know we can, or certainly as we did at Bournemouth. We don't defend like we defended at Bournemouth as a team. We leave ourselves far too open, and on the day Sunderland take outstanding advantage of that. And of course we were saying to the players that Jermaine Defoe is the man you've got to stop, but unfortunately none of our three centre-halves stopped Jermaine Defoe. So all in end, it's a massive disappointment for me, and of course for the fans. They'll be angry when they go home. I don't blame them. I apologise to them, but as the manager I have to shoulder that responsibility and make sure I kick these players at the backside and get them to play better than what we saw today. After the hope of Bournemouth, it's even more of a disappointment for me. So, but the league table tells its story, not just where we are and in the league table, but the league table split tells a bigger story. That here we're playing with far too much fear.
The second half, I mean, we did all as much as we could to try and score a goal and lift the fans and get them going again. It's a difficult situation for a group of players to go out in that second half after what they've been through.
Well, Sunderland don't need to go anywhere. They're 4-0 up. So you just leave your main focus on and say to the other 9, just sit there. And they've got to break 9 defenders down just outside their 18-yard box. You don't need to go anywhere and go and try and tackle. You've got 4 goals, you've won the game. So we tried to break it down as best we could, but it's even when we got a chance, we couldn't quite put that in. And then of course we changed to put subs on. We got a couple of injuries today, and then when we put the 3 subs on, we got Scott Dan injured. So we ended up the game with 10 men. And still nearly scored. So the lads did have a goal right to the end, but far too late. We needed a second half performance in the first half, and of course we didn't get that.
You mentioned the injuries there, just touching on obviously the transfer window. You have now strengthened the squad and got players to come in. You'll be looking to do that as soon as possible. Well,
it'll be a shock for them. We'll see what they've seen today. I think that they know that they've come to strengthen the team, and we've got to get them in amongst the squad as quickly as possibly can and get them playing. I think that's very important, because I think that'll lift the players who are very, very dejected. It's not as if they don't care, they do care. They care a great deal. It's not as if they don't try, they do try. But that focus and the way they tried today was in the wrong areas, at the wrong times, and made the wrong decisions. And like I said, you have to have a clear mind when you play a game of football. And I think that fear clouded the mind today, particularly after the first goal went in.
Sam, stark contrast to Tuesday night. Doesn't get much worse than that first 45 minutes today. How do you set about putting things right for next week or for the rest of the season? Or how can we explain today?
I think today was all about fear, and it's the players when the first goal went in, and I think that the fear overtook them and they lost control. And you have to keep control mentally when you're playing this game, much more so, particularly when you go a goal down. And I think once the fear takes over and the mind gets confused, and we saw players doing a lot of stuff that we didn't envisage or didn't want them to do today, and the frailty shown by our defending in the first half and the 4 goals that they scored. So it's apparent now that for me that the players here are struggling in the home form term, and I've got to get rid of that fear and turn that into a positive and get them playing much, much better than they are now. And I saw it against Swansea, and I've seen it again today. 2 teams below us where we haven't performed anything near we know we can, and lost both games. And our home form tells the story of that fear that's overcome the players by us being only, I think we're bottom of the league in home points gained. And if you look at our away form, we're 9th in the league for points gained away from home. So I think you can, by me explaining that to you, you can understand what I'm talking about. We have to overcome the fears that we have playing here. I don't know why they're there. I have to help them out. It's not down to the fans. The fans don't put them under a huge amount of pressure compared to other clubs that I've managed. They want to support them and they want to get behind them. But we've got to give them something to get behind, and certainly with the first half we didn't do that. So, I mean, I apologise to them for coming and seeing what they saw in that first half today.
You've made new signings recently. Can we expect to see a change?
As soon as we can. Jeffrey should be fit soon. We've got Lucas have got to get a permit and get back in the country. Momo needs a bit of catching up in his fitness because he hasn't played a first team game, and hopefully they will make a difference. They will help lift the rest of the players as well as me and as well as the staff behind the scenes. We've got a lot of work to do, me and my staff, on providing these players with the right positive mental attitude to go out and perform here on this ground.
Sam, at half time there was obviously some unsavoury scenes that took place. Was that in your thinking when you substituted Damien Delaney at half time? What took place?
No, not really, no. I mean, we couldn't. We played a very, very good game with that system, with that team at Bournemouth, and then completely lost the way we should have played in that system here at home. And so I had to change the system to try and help the players get better. But in saying that, the players had to get better themselves within that system, and because the way they performed in the first half was simply a system didn't matter, they just weren't good enough. At least in the second half we showed a bit of fighting spirit and tried to get back in the game, but obviously, you know, Sunderland had been gifted 4 goals, and they could just sit back and frustrate us. So it's a very disappointing day for us all, and of course it's my responsibility as the manager to make sure that I turn it round as quickly as possible. Okay.
Obviously, that the fans, the abuse that the whole team was getting was obviously not nice for anyone. I mean,
but they have to accept that, don't they, for the performance that they've given. I mean, a fan will show his approval if the team is placed well, and he will show his disapproval if you're not performing to the level that they expect you to perform. And I think in today's Premier League, because it's the best league in the world, they expect us to see a lot more entertainment than they've seen all season, because results tell you it's been an all-season problem. So 7 points in the up to now this season. It's obviously the home form has been the biggest problem of all, and I've got to turn that round as quickly as possible.
So there you have it. Now you've heard what Sam Allardyce and Joe Ward had to say after the game. That concludes this week's podcast for the game against Sunderland. But make sure to come back next week for a post-match review of the game against Stoke City. So thanks for listening, and remember to up the Palace.